All right, what is up, guys? Well, you know what's up. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. That one's on me. That one's on me. I need to
pointed
play.
at her.
Setup.
I need
What
to
a
play the
setup.
intro video. I'm gonna play the intro video.
Welcome in, guys, to our post-game show. Sorry to disappoint. I'm not Ken Swanson, but you get to stare at me for the rest of this post-game show. We got Maddie Lane joining us. Of course, we got Craig and BJ Kissel here as well. Excited to share with you guys all the stats, accolades, and everything that happened in this kind of chaotic, weird fourth quarter-ish debacle that turned into a 23-14 because there was a safety at the end of this to be able to get the Texans 2 more points onto that final score. So Kansas City now advances to the AFC Championship game. This is their 7th straight AFC Championship game. Patrick Mahomes took over as a starter 7 years ago, so you do the math. He's known nothing less than the AFC Championship game. Now they will face the winner of the Ravens and the Bills, which is going on tomorrow. Boys, I'll let you guys take the floor here and give me your first reactions. BJ, you're here with me in person.
I just want to say that this is the perfect time to have Mr. Craig Stout. Craig is great on the show with the way the defense played. And I want to start with the defensive side of the football, and I want to get takes on George Karlaftis, on Felix Duque-Uzama, Trent McDuffie, Leo Chanel made some plays. There is so much to talk about, Craig. Let's start with you. Biggest takeaway from the Chiefs' performance, getting this divisional round victory once more time.
So I knew I was coming on this podcast, and when the third quarter started and that drive was going down, I was thinking, oh, damn it, I have to talk about bad defense. And then the next 3 drives were outstanding defense by the Kansas City Chiefs. Spags really dialed it up. 8 sacks of C.J. Stroud, 3 coming from George Karlaftis. I mean, they got him from everywhere. It wasn't just George. FAU gets a sack. Chris Jones gets a sack. Some DBs get a sack. Trent McDuffie plays an excellent game here. I mean, all of the conversation was going to be about how poor the defense played until Spags and this defense flipped the switch. That was the difference in the game, and it was incredible to watch them get home, get the pressure that they needed to, and just really help ice this game with a little bit of help from the offense.
Yeah, you mentioned it, those 8 sacks, and they were kind of spread all throughout besides George Karlaftis, who snuck away with 3 of those. Turk Wharton also got 1. FAU, Chris Jones, Shamari Connor, the only team to ever get 8 sacks on C.J. Stroud this season was actually the New York Jets. 8 sacks from the New York Jets, and then outside of that, it was 5 sacks from the Baltimore Ravens. We all understand that why. Maddie, let's bring that negativity into this podcast. Go ahead and join us.
No, we got to save that till later. We got to say that. We'll talk
Give us
later
the
about how
icing.
Patrick Mahomes had his least amount of passing yards in a playoff game in his career. No, I thought the defense really did turn it on after that touchdown drive. I mean, like Craig said, it was kind of, you were looking at it and it was frustrating because the things that the Chiefs defense had done good all year, they were not doing well up to that point. Houston Texans were kind of running the ball all over them. They were pushing them around on the line of scrimmage. Then there was some of the same stuff. They were struggling outside of Trent McDuffie being able to cover most wide receivers. But then Spags got something figured out because all of a sudden the pressure started coming. It looked like as Chris Jones maybe had his cap tightening up on him a little bit. We saw some shots of him on the sideline. It kind of became the George Karlaftis and then the defensive back blitzing show. And every single time you could see CJ Stroud's head was just spinning a little bit, trying to figure out where pressure was coming from. Numerous times they schemed it up where George had a tight end trying to block him on pass plays, and he was absolutely just running right through them and getting not free sacks, but a tight end play. That's a lot better than having to be an offensive tackle. So you tip your hat to Spags and whatever adjustments they made coming out of that first drive in the second half. They kind of figured it out. They also slowed down the bleeding over the middle of the field a little bit at that point in time. And it was just Trent McDuffie making plays, George Karlaftis making plays. The blitzes were starting to get home a little bit. And the offense did enough in this game to, win this game. But the defense is the one that really, I think, kind of like sent it home and kind of locked it up for them.
Yeah, I think that's been the theme all season long, BJ.
Yeah, and we'll switch to the offensive side. Obviously, we're going to go back and forth. But when you go to the offense, you have to start, I believe, in this game with Travis Kelce. The records that they put up, I think it was 9th career 100-yard performance in the playoffs, which is an NFL record. I think he had already had 13 consecutive playoff games with at least 70 yards receiving, which I think is twice as many as the second most person in doing it. And obviously he had that again. So 14 straight games with at least 70 yards receiving in the playoffs. Phenomenal performance from Travis Kelce. Just, again, what we've come to expect from him and Patrick Mahomes in big moments, finding him and doing the little shimmy, whatever you want to call it, across the middle where he breaks a couple tackles and gets off down the field. But Craig, your thoughts on what we saw from Travis Kelce and that part of the passing game? We'll get to the rest of the passing game, Maddie.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it has at times over the past 2 years where the offense is going where Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce go, and we shouldn't be surprised. They get to the playoffs, that connection rejuvenates a little bit more, and even though he doesn't look like he's moving like the Travis Kelce of old, he was still getting it done like Travis Kelce of old. Anytime you break one of Jerry Rice's records, it's incredible. It's amazing. He broke one today, obviously going over 100 yards, 9 of those for him. An outrageous performance from Travis, shaking guys, breaking tackles. I mean, there was yards after the catch in this one, and that's not something that we've seen from Travis so far this year, but an absolutely insane performance for him. I was so glad that he caught the touchdown from Patrick Mahomes on an outrageous throw by Mahomes, just a truly silly throw there. But he really was the key cog. They kept going to him on third down. They kept going to him when they needed it. And frankly, it was the difference in why the offense was able to move the ball until late when they were able to get the run game going a little bit.
Maddie, I want to get your thoughts because I just looked at the numbers because I wondered, was DeAndre Hopkins hurt? Did he play in this football? He had 1 target. Hollywood Brown had 2 targets, and neither one of them had a catch. So if you would have said at the end of this game that Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins would have 0 receptions and 3 targets, would not have think that the Chiefs would have won this football game.
No, you wouldn't have. You would have expected one of those veteran wide receivers to step up a little bit and play a little bit of a role, and the offense finding success. And now, like I mentioned, I don't think the offense played great, especially in the air. Like Mahomes struggled; he didn't have a lot of time, but he didn't, I don't think, play his best game. And most of what was working was Travis Kelce, but they really struggled to find somebody else going. I think we ended up with 6 completions to wide receivers in this game, 5, and they were all to Xavier Worthy. And that means all but 2 of them were behind the line of scrimmage. Like he only caught 2 passes beyond the line of scrimmage to wide receivers in an entire game. That's kind of crazy to come away with a win in a playoff game. Like I do think that's a feat that not many teams have probably accomplished in modern NFL right now. So yeah, I'm a little surprised that they were able to win this game and the offense was at least functional without getting much out of either wide receiver. But going back to the point of Travis Kelce, I think the Texans defense did a great job. They played a lot more zone, a lot more soft zone, a lot more quarters coverage, and they were just matching the Chiefs wide receivers and said, we're not going to let you guys run drags and mesh concepts all game long like you did in that first matchup and give you wide open Hollywood Brown, wide open Xavier Worthy. You're going to have to beat us. And that's where Travis Kelce said, okay, I will find all of the soft spots over the middle of the field repeatedly. And then somehow I'm going to dial back, my agility, not the top speed, but the agility back to 5 years and make some guys miss in the open field.
Yeah, a lot of people jump in the chat right now singing the praises of Travis Kelce. Let me tell you the exact stats that he was able to get tonight. So Travis Kelce is now the first player in NFL history with 100-plus receptions in 7 straight seasons, including the postseason. He has now had 70-plus receiving yards in 14 straight playoff games, an NFL record, 23 straight playoff games with 3-plus catches, an NFL record as well. Kelce now joins Jerry Rice as the only 2 NFL players with 2,000-plus receiving yards in the playoffs. Of course, Rice has 2,245. We'll see where Kelce gets by the end of this streak. He's also second in receiving touchdowns in the postseason, of course, second to Jerry Rice. So those accolades obviously continuing to climb, and he has a little bit of room to do so with potentially 2 more games ahead.
It's crazy when you start getting to comparing him to receivers and you just move out of the tight end conversation and no more Rob Gronkowski, no more any of those. We're going to compare him to Jerry Rice with playoff production. It's crazy, Craig.
It is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, we talk all the time about, witnessing greatness, living in the moment right now, because of course, the concern is always what happens when this falls off. We're still witnessing greatness. And this was kind of the year that we all looked at as the regular season went along and went, yeah, Travis looks slower. It looks like time has caught up to him a little bit, which is fair. I'm quite old. I don't move like I used to either, Travis. It's the same thing. We're so much the same. But no, it's good to see that he can still flip that switch, that they can still lean on him in a big moment like this. 7 for 117 and a touchdown. That's outrageous. Like that's a crazy stat line. It doesn't matter who it is that comes up with that on a day where all the other pass catchers were being talked about. Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, even on the other side of the ball, Nico Collins was the feature guy over there. Travis Kelce paces every single receiver in receiving yards. Just, reminded everybody, I'm still here. I still got it. I can still do this.
Maddie, let's bring you into this conversation as well, because one of the guys who obviously helped him get that touchdown in this game, Patrick Mahomes, falling connected with his buddy. Since 2018, Patrick Mahomes has now thrown 51 touchdown passes under pressure from inside the pocket, second most in the NFL in that span, only behind Josh Allen with 52, including the playoffs. So give him a little bit of love to QB1 right after this one.
Oh, I mean, that was one of the best plays you're going to see, I think, from this entire playoff run, right? Like, that was a phenomenal play. You gets the back of his drop, he tries to run, and he's getting tackled by the ankles, and he throws a perfect pass right to Travis Kelce. And like, I don't want to say that, like, I think Patrick Mahomes played a bad game. The odds were stacked against him quite a bit in this game. I thought early in the game, you could see the Chiefs offensive line wasn't going to be able to give him a lot of time. So things got a little wonky from the get-go. But like, Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. He still made a few plays out there where you have to be like, okay, tip the cap. There's nothing you can do about that. That's the best player in the game that we have ever seen. It's just, it definitely gets frustrating as a fan watching, like, hey, we have the best quarterback that I've ever seen play the game, and this looks really, really hard, play after play, drive after drive. And I think the thought for a lot of us Chiefs fans was, now that they're healthy, going into the playoffs, they get all the wide receivers back besides Rashee Rice. Maybe this starts to look different again. And it really looked like a lot of the same. It was a lot of trying to get the ball out on wide receiver screens that weren't working. It was trying to gimmick up some plays, and it wasn't clicking. So it was nice to see the second half when the pressure was put on. Mahomes is still Mahomes. Kelce's still Kelce. Like, they still have all of the same familiar faces that we know who they are. So it was still a vintage Mahomes in moments. It would have just been nice to see a longer, prolonged period of that in this game.
Right. And it was interesting also how this thing begun, right? I mean, we didn't think that Nico Remigio would be running all the way down the field right on the opening kickoff, bobbling the ball, barely being able to hold on to it. Now, that's been an issue for him a little bit, but the guy coming up again in the clutch, and then Kansas City running Pacheco, and I can't remember the other play in that drive, but their opening drive got into the red zone right away, and it just seemed like they had so many red zone issues until we get to the fourth quarter. That's kind of been the theme of this team all season long, with the exception of the Texans game, the Steelers game, and then, we're going to cut out the Broncos game, right? So why do you think they weren't able to stick with the trend? Because that fast firepower offense, we were seeing tastes of it, guys. Why didn't we see it as much today? Craig, you want to jump in on this?
I don't know. It felt like they schemed stuff up a little bit better for Hollywood Brown towards the end of the regular season there. And, they certainly did on that first third down on that first drive. That was a great play call by Andy Reid, got the look that they wanted. It was just an overthrow. It was a great play there. And then they just kind of went away from Hollywood. There was that long pass down the field that ended up being a drop by Hollywood Brown. DeAndre Hopkins, it seemed like maybe Derek Stingley was taking him a little bit out of the game there, not really able to separate against him there. And then, they just didn't really go at those guys or really kind of focus on that. The focus seemed to be, let's get the ball to Xavier Worthy and see what he can do, sometimes behind the line of scrimmage. And then, kind of let these guys spread the defense out a little bit, open up the middle of the field a little bit more. And it's hard to really get too upset. Now, I want to see more from the wide receivers. Don't get me wrong, but it's hard to get too upset when on some of these gotta have it third downs, Travis Kelce's wide open. for that third down, I mean, you got to take it. This was part of it. The entire discussion last year was they don't have a wide receiver that can carry them. They don't have this. Obviously, Rashee Rice came into the game late at the year, but it was always the Travis Kelce show. It's okay that Travis Kelce looks this way. We'll just see if maybe in some future weeks here when they're playing weaker defenses, because this is a good Houston Texas team, and especially a pass rush there, and they needed to get the ball out quick. Makes it hard for maybe some of this longer developing stuff.
Maddie, what do you think? What's your take on this?
I think there might have been a little bit of fool's gold with the performance against Houston and Pittsburgh because both teams played so much man coverage. And the Chiefs, that's something that they were able to actually beat a lot of the year. Like Mahomes ended the year as one of the best, if not the best quarterback against man coverage. And I think you saw a lot of that from Houston, especially on third downs in the first matchup. You saw it against the Steelers. So while the offense was definitely looking better, and I think that gives you a lot of confidence and things to build on, if a team's not going to come out and play man coverage, some of that same stuff wasn't going to work. You weren't getting free releases off the line of scrimmage because guys were getting picked off on these bunch sets or these crossers. Yeah. So now all of a sudden you have to win in a little bit more of isolation or finding the soft spots. And it still seems like the only player that this team thinks can do that consistently, or Mahomes feels is going to do it consistently right now, is Travis Kelce. And hey, but judging by this game, he can still do that very, very well. And not every team has Derek Stingley Jr., who is probably the best cornerback, or if not the second best cornerback playing left in the playoffs. So all of a sudden, you now free up Hopkins or Hollywood Brown when they're not going up against him. So there's still a pathway for them to return to a better and more functioning, offense. Oh, and like Craig talked about a little bit, Houston's pass rush, especially to start the game, was dominating the Chiefs' offensive line. It was pressure across the board. It wasn't just the tackles, although Joe Thuney had his hands full through a lot of that game. It was the interior and everything. So it's just a bad matchup. The way the Texans played, the Chiefs didn't have the best answers for it, but they ultimately didn't need it, and maybe that plays a role. It's just like they did just enough.
Let me ask you both this as well, because you brought up the offensive line. The fact that the Chiefs decided, or Andy Reid decided to take Joe Thuney, go out to the left tackle, bring Mike Kelly-Endo to replace him at left guard. That was the option versus having DJ Humphries come in and be their left tackle. He said that he was seeing the rotation of them during practice this week. Was it gamesmanship? Was he actually waiting to see? I mean, who knows? What did you think about this decision? And is this decision going to be able to ride or protect Patrick Mahomes as they have potentially 2 more games ahead of them against very challenging teams? I mean, we haven't even gotten into the potential of who it will be, Ravens or Bills. And then after that, I mean, if it's going to be the Lions, there's a lot ahead. Is this offensive line going to cut it?
I mean, the real answer is probably, because once again, this is an outrageous. I mean, it's Andy Reid. He figures out ways to scheme it. We saw a lot of the play calling was featured because the fact that they did not trust this offensive line to block an excellent pass rush. I want to make that clear. It is an excellent pass rush. Will Anderson Jr. is a stud, and he is a star. If you were not paying attention to the Texans all year long, maybe you were like, oh, is that guy that they drafted pretty high last year? I don't know what they've really done very much. He is awesome and was incredible this week. They started chipping and helping there. But Danico Autry is really good. As well as Danielle Hunter. He's a really good pass rusher as well. So in these obvious passing situations, you could tell Patrick Mahomes was ready to bail out of the pocket immediately. The rest of the teams that are potentially out there, even on the NFC side, don't have the kind of depth at pass rush that the Houston Texans did. So yes, it felt like this was one of those, let's trot Joe Thuney out there and see if he can hold up against the Houston Texans. We feel pretty good about what we can do with the rest of the teams remaining in the playoffs here. He's pretty good at picking stuff up, pretty good at exchanges with Kelly-Endo here. And frankly, after the Texans started really hot, rushing the passer there, it seemed like that died down a little bit. They were able to help Joe Thuney a little bit. They were able to get their feet under them a little bit more, and it wasn't so catastrophic all the time. And now all of a sudden you started seeing Patrick Mahomes dialed up a little bit more. You saw him able to make some plays a little bit more, and ultimately was the difference between that. So I do think that they can rely on this. And for those people that are going to say, hey, maybe DJ Humphries comes back in and plays later on this season, I think this is it. I think if they were going to do it, they were going to do it against this game. I think this is it. Joe Thuney's your left tackle for the rest of the playoffs here, in my opinion.
All right, you heard it from Craig. Maddie, go ahead and give us a couple of thoughts on this, and then we're going to wrap it up and take a break, and we'll be back in a little bit. So, Maddie, go ahead and wrap this up.
I think that this is the offensive line that you see. I think they made the decision that Joe Thuney is going to be the left tackle, and I think that was a fine decision to make. It's unfortunate that in this game he didn't, go out there and completely lock it down. He didn't look like a great left tackle in this game, which is probably the most difficult matchup he's going to have left. But it still just wasn't great. And then you couple that with it also impacts the run game. And you saw that a lot in the first half is the run game really couldn't get going. Part of that was the running back of choice being Isaiah Pacheco and not Kareem Hunt. Part of it was they just get worse at blocking from left tackle and left guard with this decision. But in the second half, like Craig said, they figured it out a little bit. I think it's important to note too, Juwan Taylor played a really good game. According to Next Gen Stats, he was lined against Danielle Hunter for 14 matchups, only gave up one pressure, only gave up one other pressure in his other 18 snaps. Like Juwan Taylor played great. I will have to go back and see how much help he got versus the other side. But you told me going into the game that Juwan Taylor only gives up 2 pressures all game to those 2 guys. I would have assumed there was a lot of help going towards Joe Thuney, and the offense would have probably functioned a little better than it did. I think it was the interior offensive line having as much trouble early on that was probably a little bit more cause for concern than necessarily the left tackle. But they figured it out, or they figured out enough to get the points on the board they needed to win the game. And like that is, I think, the motto of this Chiefs team right now.
Right. And I believe Taylor had a great second half as well. I mean, 1 penalty out of the guy, I'll take it. We're going to take a break, though, right now, and we'll be back with you guys here shortly.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
All right, short, sweet, to the point. We are already back here. Haley Lewis joined by Craig as well as Maddie, and we are up here at the Holladay Distillery in Weston, a huge sponsor of us on the Kansas City Sports Network, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs advancing to the AFC Championship game once again, not once again, 7 times again. So this is going to be exciting. Maddie, let's bring
Haley,
you back in.
Question, real quick, Haley.
Sure.
Is 7 a lot? I'm just curious. Asking for a friend, is 7 a lot? Let alone 7 in a row. Is 7 a lot?
Listen, since Patrick Mahomes has taken over as the starter in 2018, the Chiefs have now made it to their 7th consecutive AFC Championship game in that same time span. They have also gone to 4 Super Bowls. They have won. Craig, did you know that they won 3 Super Bowls?
Is that good?
It is good.
Is that good?
I've heard it's good. That Patrick Mahomes knows nothing less than making it to an AFC Championship. I mean, my gosh, he missed it twice. What a loser. I can't believe he didn't do it. Insane.
There are players on this team that have done nothing but go to Super Bowls.
Well, look at it. Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, that draft class.
Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis have never lost a playoff game.
Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, like that whole draft has never lost a playoff game. Like they're just like kind of hanging out. They're like, oh yeah, we always play till February, right?
Exactly. They know nothing different. I was talking about this on the broadcast earlier. I remember the first time Trent McDuffie's rookie season. I was on the field and I went after him and I was like, hey, are you excited to go to the Super Bowl? Did you ever expect this would happen in your rookie season? And he goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, I did. I expected it. And I was like, my God, you did. Alrighty. That confidence riding in. This squad, Brett Veach, they need a thank you card for being able to bolster up the roster that they have and create the depth in the way that they have, where next man up mentality is not just a cliche in Kansas City. So Maddie, I want to bring you in to give a little critique. I want you to give a little bit of critique. Let's start with the opening drive and what the heck we saw out of Pacheco. And then let's dive into a couple of those costly third downs. Take it away, Maddie.
I think it's pretty clear that Kareem Hunt is the better running back for this team. And I'm going to give the coaching staff, who is very good at their jobs, a lot of credit here and say they know that too. I wonder if the whole aspect here is we had that big story, the story that was run this past week about how, Kareem Hunt's having trouble getting off the couch after games because he's getting beat up and stuff. Maybe. And this is just me trying to give the credit there. Like maybe the idea is we're going to use Pacheco early in the game and let Kareem Hunt close it out because we have these 2 running backs we want to use, because you can just tell the running game takes on an entirely different mentality when it's Hunt back there versus Pacheco. Not only is the running better, but like there's even a different level of physicality. The pacing of the run is better. And while Caliendo at left guard, I think limits what they can do from the run play menu, I do think that Kareem Hunt puts more stuff available because he can run with a little bit more pace and patience.
Yeah.
So ultimately, Kareem Hunt is the answer at running back for this team. I just understand, given how he has looked at times this year, just fatigued and beat up, not wanting to make him be, this full bell cow back and letting Isaiah Pacheco take some of those early game hits.
The guy's also 29. Things have changed. You continue
Young
to get
like
your
me.
body. There you go. Hit on constantly. And I think that a lot of the perception of Chiefs Kingdom, and Craig will bring you into this as well, was that Isaiah Pacheco was the guy. And it seems like things down the stretch, and especially his absence, obviously he was hurt at the week against the Bengals, week 2 of this regular season. It took some time away. They got things flowing with Kareem Hunt. But is it, I don't want to say exposing Pacheco, but maybe is this showcasing that maybe it's not the perfect fit like a lot of people were thinking?
I mean, especially in a game, Matty alluded to it there. With Caliendo there, moving Joe Thuney out, it limits some of what you can do with your run game there. It just does. And so, the holes aren't quite as clean. If you're running gap scheme stuff, it's not quite as crystal clear when you take the handoff exactly where the hole is going to be, especially when you're playing against a good defensive line. Will Anderson blew up a couple of plays because he's just, frankly, really good at this. So there are elements like that where you need a guy that can make a cut, make a proper read, course correct what has been blocked for him. That's not necessarily Isaiah Pacheco's strength. Now, simultaneously, like Matty said, at the beginning of the game, this is a cold game. Nobody wants to hit. Nobody wants to be hit. Isaiah Pacheco coming out of the gate and running him up the gut a few times. Yeah, you're probably looking at that and going, okay, Isaiah Pacheco today had 3.6 yards per carry. It wasn't really efficient there.
Higher than I thought.
Yeah, I'd do it higher than you thought. Yeah, but I mean, you're bruising that linebacking core a little bit. You're bruising those safeties. You're making them take some unnecessary hits, and then Kareem Hunt can come in at the end of the game there, and now all of a sudden, his exceptional contact balance, his vision, he's able to spin off some of these tackles that frankly don't have the kind of chutzpah that they did at the beginning of the game, because Isaiah Pacheco is able to kind of be that battering ram for this team. That said, the touchdown that Kareem Hunt had, I'm not sure Isaiah Pacheco gets that one there. He is kind of, a single one cut and go kind of guy. Kareem Hunt saw the opening, was able to bounce it. That is what he does well. They are a good complement to each other if you can use them this way. Certainly we saw what happens when Kareem Hunt gets going at the end of the game there. It was really good to see him break off a few big runs against a clearly tired Texans team. So I do like the usage of it, but yes, it is very clear here. The more suited back for this specific offensive line appears to be Kareem Hunt.
Well, now the Houston Texans are a whopping 0-3 against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. We're going to bring in our own Tucker Franklin. Yeah. He's got a quote for us that you want to hear.
Yeah, James Palmer, one of the only 2 underdog employees to actually pick the Texans in this game, said DeMeco Ryans is spot on with his final answer. The Chiefs win because they're consistent. They find a way to execute in all 3 phases, and they don't make mistakes and that hurt themselves. Ryans believes that the Texans are not far from being that. I will say Andy Reid's press conference is underway now. He started off by congratulating Mike Borgonzi for getting the job at the Tennessee Titans.
What a classy man.
So what a guy. He also said that the guys have some bumps and bruises, but nothing major in terms of the injuries as it goes into another one of another AFC Championship. Oh, I just forgot to remind you of this. Draymond Green said that the Chiefs were going to lose their first playoff game. He's wrong, and he's an idiot.
There it is, Tucker Franklin, bringing us all the latest. We can agree, the people who always it's baffling to me, guys, how many people continue to doubt the Kansas City Chiefs and what they're able to do. I mean, we've all done it. We've all talked to our doubts about this team, especially the fact that so many were close games. And then Kansas City always finds a way. They lose Tyreek Hill, they find a way. That no receiver can catch a ball with 2 hands even touching the ball, yet they find a way to win the Super Bowl. Just different ways that this team continues to step up and find ways. So very interesting to hear that people continue again to bet against a guy like Patty Mahomes. I'll bring the 2 of you back in as well to talk maybe a little more specific about the secondary, because that was a big point of topic when we were coming into this week, right? Trent McDuffie obviously filling a very big void left behind by L'Jarius Sneed, who went to the Tennessee Titans. So Mike Borgonzi, you guys can have a great reunion down there in good old Tennessee. And then you know who plays across the field from him? Jalen Watson got that starting job out of training camp, and then he gets hurt. And then we have this rotation of 3 different players: Joshua Williams, Shamari Connor, and why am I blanking on the third? Joshua Williams, Shamari Connor,
Nazeeh Johnson.
Nazeeh Johnson. Thank you. We see him
Maddie,
come back.
be nice.
We see him come back in. 1 tackle, 1 pass defended. What did you see out of Watson, guys, today? Either or, take it away.
Yeah, it was good to see him out there.
Defense
it looked
first.
like, yeah, of course. I'm just going to step in and do this. I haven't been on in a little while. Defense comes up, I just take it.
We love it.
Yeah, Jalen Watson, it was good to see him out there. He looked like he was moving pretty good. It didn't look like he was hindered by this. And I think early on, if the Chiefs were able to build an early lead, if they felt comfortable with the defense and the way that it was, I think we would have seen a lot less Jalen Watson that came out there. When Brian Cook went out injured, I think I even posted in the KCSN Discord, it was like, we need to see more Jalen Watson right now. We already did, but we need to see more right now, because you need guys that understand the system, can be out there, can, shorthand calls and everything like that. Jalen Watson's been in this defense for a long time. He knows all of the shorthand. He knows what Justin Reed wants. He knows what Trent McDuffie wants. And it was really good to see him out there, because it looked like a much more cohesive unit out there. The whole Trent McDuffie was awesome. Yes, I believe he was matched up against Nico Collins. Bill Barnwell had this there 15 times. There were 3 targets. He allowed 1 catch for 24 yards. And Nico Collins was outrageously good today, especially on the sidelines. So that's a terrific performance. But Jalen Watson was also really, really good. So much so that Shamari Connor, who we've watched throughout the season, who has not played particularly well throughout the season, arguably had his best game of the year. He knew where he needed to be. He was playing off of that second corner better than we've seen him play off of Joshua Williams or Nazeeh Johnson. He really was terrific. And so that ripple effect that we see with Jalen Watson re-entering the lineup really made a big difference, especially when they decided, you're going to be the guy. We're going to play you now. We're going to line you up there. This is what our defense is going to look like, especially in the second half there outside of that one drive. Jalen Watson was really, really, really good today, and way better than I thought a guy coming off of a serious injury like that would have been. I'm excited. To see what he's going to do.
I was just happy he could play at least 75% of what his 100% was, because that's enough right now for Kansas City. Maddie, your thoughts on the return of Watson?
Yeah. I mean, they needed it, right? Like we've seen down the stretch here. This defense played a little bit better the last couple weeks of the season, but we had seen since Jalen Watson got hurt, they had struggled to find who they wanted to play across from Trent McDuffie, how they wanted to handle the nickel cornerback spot, who they wanted to play. And when we had seen the lineup that had Nazeeh Johnson and Shamari Connor in particular, but you could even sprinkle some Josh Williams in there became a little too many ways to attack this Chiefs team through the air. And like they had a lot of struggles defending with that particular set of cornerbacks in the secondary. You can only put Trent McDuffie so many places given the injuries they had. Well, now that you get Watson back, I think it was even on that field, maybe it was a second drive of the game for the Texans. There was a play where he ended up one-on-one on the backside of a formation with Nico Collins, just one-on-one. They did have, I think, a safety over there, so it was too high, but they still trusted him to essentially have this like one-on-one coverage for anything that was underneath or outside. And that's just something they couldn't do up until him coming back. You can't do that with Nazeeh Johnson, or it was in the red zone, if I'm not mistaken, or Keith Taylor, or whoever you're going to put out there. You just can't play that kind of defense. So it opens a lot up for Steve Spagnuolo. And more so, it allows Trent McDuffie to go around. Like the stats are always going to be different where you look at. Next Gen Stats has McDuffie following Collins around 70% of the snaps. So 22 of 32 routes by the end of the game. You can't do that without Jalen Watson. Like Jalen Watson played great. I don't want to take anything away from like his direct performance. I thought he was phenomenal playing the ball downfield on the vertical routes like he has been all year. But that allows McDuffie to go be the cornerback one for this team, to go follow the best player. And as we saw in this game, like Karlaftis made a late push, obviously, to be the best player out of this game, but like Trent McDuffie was in the lead for 3.5 quarters of being the best player on the field of this football game. And like, it's just, he was that good, and having Watson available allows him to move in and out of the slot, to go play different alignments and stuff. So it can't be understated how big of a deal that is for this Chiefs defense going forward, especially as they go up against other passing attacks that might be a little bit more potent than what the Houston Texans have with the depleted receiving room.
I will get your guys' final thoughts on this matchup, and then I do want to dive into the potential of Bills versus Ravens for the Chiefs and what they're going to see next. But we just got a little bit of a update from the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the 300th win for head coach Andy Reid. That includes the regular season and the postseason. So 300 wins. He is the fourth coach in NFL history to be able to amass that number. So great win for him. Let me ask you guys just quickly here. So we find out who the Chiefs are going to face, obviously, coming after the result of tomorrow. Who is the better matchup, and who do you think is most likely going to win? So 2 separate questions. Who's the better matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship, whether that be the Bills or the Ravens, but who do you actually think is going to win in tomorrow's game? Craig, we'll dive it. Actually, Maddie first, and then we wrap up with positivity with Craig.
Okay, so who's going to win? I picked the Bills to win this game. I kind of felt pretty strongly about it, but the more I kind of think about the matchup, I don't think it's a great matchup for them with the Ravens. I think the Ravens match up well against them.
Okay.
But I'm going to fall back on old reliable here. The better quarterback wins. I still think Josh Allen's a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson, even if Lamar Jackson has improved a ton and is playing great this year. So I think the Bills win.
Okay.
And I think that's probably a little tougher matchup for the Chiefs, at least like the Chiefs defense. I think we've seen the Chiefs play very well against the Ravens numerous times. Spags has a pretty good idea how to contain them. The Ravens are kind of simple to figure out their offense. They're going to do a read option. They're going to do RPOs, and you just got to figure out how to stop it. If you can't, you're going to look bad. And if you can, the Ravens offense struggles. I think Spags gets that. The Bills are a little bit more versatile. It's a tough matchup. I mean, like, watching the Chiefs run defense today makes me a little nervous about whichever of those teams play, because Derrick Henry or what James Cook has done. This Chiefs run defense has been the backbone of this defense all year. They haven't had to throw extra numbers at it. They haven't had to do a lot extra to get a good run D. Houston Texans having success on the ground is not a good look before you go up against a much better rushing attack. So it does make me nervous. But come on, at the end of the day, you're going to pick against a team going for a three-peat for either one of these other two teams that haven't beat them in the playoffs? Nah, I don't think we can do it.
Craig, we'll bring you in. He mentioned the rushing net, 149 that they got on the ground today. So interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great point. I mean, it really is, which, I look at all of this and you're welcome, Maddie. You haven't heard that from me in a little while. Most of the time I'm like, no, that's a terrible point, Maddie. Terrible point.
You usually text it to me, but
I do usually text it to you. I'm going to go out there and say that the Bills are the better matchup for Kansas City in favor of the Chiefs there, because that Bills defense is not good. The Ravens defense is questionable as well, but they're starting to figure it out a little bit. They made some changes. They've advanced that defense a little bit more. I don't have any faith in the Bills defense here. And yes, the Bills offense is certainly dynamic. I worry about what happens with Josh Allen, James Cook, and all of that. But if I have to pick something, there's a fatal flaw on the field there when the Buffalo Bills are on defense. We've seen it throughout the year, especially at the end of the year. They have had to score like crazy to win games. Now, they're certainly capable of that, but Steve Spagnuolo coming up with a singular game plan for Josh Allen versus a defense that has struggled to stop middling offenses. I feel good about what the Chiefs offense can do. Now, that being said, after that week 1 game, Isaiah Likely goes out of bounds, has his foot on the line that would have won, the Baltimore Ravens the game there. I said right then and there, this feels like unfinished business. I don't think that the Chiefs are done seeing them this season. I'm going to stick with that. I really do think that the Ravens are going to come out, play a better football game tomorrow, and that the Chiefs will see the Ravens in the AFC Championship.
It's kind of a toss-up for me because both these teams have such a big chip on their shoulder with the Chiefs, right? The AFC Championship loss for the Ravens, and then, of course, the Week 1 loss where you should have worn a different color of cleats. I digress. That's another situation. And then you got, the Bills, who have beaten Kansas City consistently in the regular season, but cannot get it done in the postseason. So, honestly, the two of them, I understand their beef, but only one of them is going to get a chance to bring it against Kansas City here at Arrowhead, and we'll have to see how that pans out. BJ is joining us again. Before we get to Toast Game, I do want to ask you this as well.
Okay.
Sorry, 0 heads up for you, Tucker, on that one. I just decided that he's back on the show now.
That's all right. We're good. We're good. Good players adjust.
Tab's been paid.
There you go.
Truck's loaded.
If you're looking at this game tomorrow between the Ravens and Trucks, I just got it. Sorry.
Loaded.
Between the
Everything we're using
Bills
right now.
and the Ravens, who do you think is the better matchup for Kansas City?
I think the Ravens are a better match. I think the Ravens are a
Okay.
better football team overall. That being said, I would still rather play the Ravens, as
Okay.
weird as that sounds. Josh Allen will be the best football player on the field. Never been afraid of Lamar. I've
Yeah.
said that. It's kind of been one of my takes for a long time. I don't trust that he can make 4 3rd and 8
Mhm.
completions, and people have followed me for a long time, heard me say that for years. Phenomenal player, MVP candidate.
Yeah.
I don't want to face Josh Allen in the playoffs. I think he's just the guy that can turn it on and completely turn the game around.
get it.
Ravens are a better team, so it's gonna be a fun matchup. Either way, the storyline is gonna be awesome. They're coming for the throne.
Yeah.
It's defending the throne. If you're the Chiefs, it's beautiful. These are the good old days. All those fun things we talk about right now. It's setting up perfectly for exactly what the NFL wanted. Premium matchup, 5:30 Central Time next Sunday. Chiefs against either Lamar or Josh Allen coming to Arrowhead to try to knock them off the pedestal, and that's what it's all about.
It's going to be a great one. It's very exciting. We have a lot to look forward to. Get your Xanax ready, guys. It's going to be nerve-wracking. So let's dive into this Toast game.
I get to give that guy in the red sweatshirt right there a big old hug here in a few days. I'm really looking forward
Wait,
to
Craig,
that.
you're coming to town?
No, I'm going to be in Dallas. Sorry.
We'll be
I'm
Sorry to
sorry.
disappoint you, Haley. I apologize. Yes.
I didn't even put that together. I'll see you in Dallas. I forgot. Anyways, let's get on to the Toast game. So I'm doing dry January, which sucks. So I have
Good for you.
toasting. I will be, I know, good. On my high horse. I will be doing my toast game with water, and I'm probably going to steal one of y'all's, but then we'll go around the place. But I got to give it to George Karlaftis. 3 sacks on the day, taking down CJ Stroud 8 times collectively as a defense, the most that he's gotten sacked this entire season. So have a day, Mr. Furious George, and we will pass this around. BJ, you want to take the next one?
Mine's gonna be completely. I will not take anybody's. I promise that. So let's go to Craig.
Okay.
I mean, I just want to tag up with Haley's here. Did you guys realize that George Karlaftis is now 2nd in franchise history in playoff sacks for the
I
Kansas
didn't
City
realize
Chiefs?
that.
How far is
Yeah.
he behind Frank?
He is 3.5 sacks behind Frank Clark. who
Closing in.
He's 3.5 sacks
leads
behind being like 3rd all time in NFL history in like
Correct.
playoff
Yes.
sacks. Yeah.
Yes.
He's a Texans
His
game.
rookie
Pass.
contract.
On his rookie
Oh,
contract,
Lord.
he passed Neil Smith and Derek Thomas today.
Yeah, I didn't know he passed Neil Smith. That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely did. He was at 4 sacks going into today. He's at 7 now. They were both at 6.5 sacks. An outrageous stat, George
So
Karlaftis.
I
That's one of that
stole
hits
I stole
so-
your
it-
toast game, didn't I?
No. You didn't,
Okay,
because
good.
I get to talk about Trent McDuffie and how damn awesome Trent McDuffie is. This man should have been first team All-Pro again this year. Again, they asked him to play so many different spots all over the field for this defense throughout the year when, frankly, they did not have a secondary or other corners outside of Jalen Watson that really, held up the way that they have in the past couple of years. He was asked to play outside. He was asked to man up against Nico Collins, who is one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL. And when they were matched up, he did not allow Nico Collins to go off on him. Trent McDuffie, early on in this game, when the Chiefs defense was struggling to find their footing before they'd really started hitting it home with the sacks and everything like that, Trent was the guy that was coming up with stops. He kept them in it early. He kept them in it late. He continued to play at a crazy high level. He is a blue chip superstar. Trent McDuffie,
Ooh.
toast game.
So Mr. Trent.
What a draft.
Maddie, you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, I'm going to jump on the back of Trent McDuffie here for a second, like the Chiefs defense did to start the game. I think it's great too, because to your point, not only is Nico Collins one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, but he's the kind of wide receiver that's supposed to present the problems for Trent McDuffie. He's a big, tall, long, strong wide receiver, and McDuffie's issues have been getting to the ball through some guys like that. Think back to the A.J. Brown play in the Super Bowl. So it's a bad matchup for him to come away with such an amazing game. I think shows how much he's developed in the NFL already and become one of the top 3 corners in the NFL. I'll go to the other side of the ball. The offense didn't play great, but we got to shout out some people on the offensive side of the ball. Somebody had to do good enough to get on here. And we talked about Travis Kelce a lot. I was going to go with him. I'm going to go with Mr. Kareem Hunt coming back to Kansas City this year, kind of leading the running back position after Isaiah Pacheco gets hurt. But then not only does he become like a guy just to step in while Pacheco's hurt, we talked about it. He's clearly kind of the best guy. And you look at some of those runs he made, he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage or just in front of it and still falling forward for an extra 4 or 5 yards. The touchdown run into the end zone, he makes a nice cut and makes not guys miss, but he has to get through a gap that it wasn't supposed to go through. There was some runs in the second half where the offense was struggling coming off of that Texans drive where you're like, hey, the Chiefs kind of need something here. Kareem Hunt was the offensive player that wasn't Mahomes or Kelce that was providing that spark. He was the guy doing it, and that's only on 8 carries, and I think everybody can probably think back to at least 2 or 3 different runs he had, and it was only on 8 touches. That was pretty awesome performance from Mr. Kareem Hunt, and I hope he can continue it for the rest of the playoff run.
All right. I'm gonna put on the spot. Tucker, are you doing a toast game?
Oh yeah, I always got a toast game.
All right. Do you want to go or do you want me to go?
No, I'll go. I'll raise my glass to look. These games can be brutal, especially in this weather. It can be cold, and you can get a lot of guys get nicked up, banged up. Andy Reid at the podium said they got a lot of guys with bumps and bruises. Everybody's got bumps and bruises this time of year, but an overall, raise a glass to some good health. Good health. There we go. To good health.
All right, and I told you mine was going to be a little different. I'm going to raise my glass to everybody out there watching and everybody out there who supported the Feed It Forward program that we did going into this game, as Mr. Samuel Norman Roberts and his 2 daughters were able to go to the Chiefs game today, take them to their first ever Chiefs game because he was the lucky winner that supported our Feed It Forward program. We had 4 tickets to the divisional round and a parking pass, and we raised $5,000 for the homeless shelter. And as somebody who goes down there every month and works with them, $5,000 is going to go a very long ways to feeding the most vulnerable in our community. And I know I talk about it a lot, but to just have 4 tickets and for it to turn into that kind of money and that kind of impact, and it's not us. And this is what I want to be very clear. It's not us doing this. We are a microphone for good people that are watching and listening that understand that we try to keep these things very simple with our raffles and our foundation to try and make as big an impact we can from a very small company. And we do that because we have some very, very good people that are watching and listening who understand and trust that we go do these things with the right intentions. It's exactly what we're doing. And I get on Monday to drive down there and hand them a check for $5,000. That's going to go a very long way. So thank you, everybody that's supported this and continues to support things we do with the foundation. The impact I get to see, we'll try to do better of kind of sharing that, but thank you for helping us make that impact. Cheers.
Now I will say, wasn't 5,000 the amount that you said you would shave your head for as well?
I heard it.
So was.
Did you?
What was your
that?
amount, Haley? Because I'm pretty sure we could.
100,000. I
thought I got down to 50. I thought we got it down to 50. So,
listen,
DJ, I'll bring the shavers next
Craig will do it with you. Craig will shave his head with you.
What an honor, Craig.
I will definitely do that for you. It means a lot to me that you feel like, on the same page. So I will definitely do that. I will make that sacrifice of my hair.
I will. This is going to sound bad. Next time we do one of these, it's going to be for the draft. And it's going to be raising money for Therese Paylor. Yeah. So let's put a pin in this, and we'll come back to it in April.
5,000.
We're right back here at Holladay Distillery.
We have
all of us together.
I will have the clippers because we do the mustaches for a certain amount every year. Oh.
This makes me nervous.
I'll do a Fu Manchu for Therese. I'm putting that out there right now. I'll do a Fu Manchu for Therese.
But there's no donation amount. He's just going to show up like that.
Oh my gosh.
You got to wait for people to donate money first. Don't just do it.
A top 5 moment in KCSN history was raising $2,000 in less than 2 minutes because everybody wanted to see Tucker chug a seltzer.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did a cartwheel last year right by the creek. Remember? That was
the cartwheel.
The
frogs. Yeah.
They're not happy now.
Are we talking about the draft from last year?
When
I showed up here and you guys had been drinking since 10 a.m. that day?
Was
that the day we're talking about?
That was day one.
That was day one.
That was the barrel pick.
I don't remember any of that.
Maddie, I'm not surprised.
It's good stuff. It's the good stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, good times, good memories. And of course, always we're very happy that you guys joined us. Anyone else final comments before we won't see you guys next until the AFC Championship game? Isn't that wild?
We'll be down in Dallas covering the Shrine Bowl like we always are, talking to some future Chiefs. But we'll be doing our live stream. We'll all be together down there, and we might do a watch along. We'll see. We'll have some other maybe special guests joining our live stream. Have we gotten a confirmation on that, Tuck?
The special guest said he had to purchase some things before he showed up to our stream.
Yeah.
Special.
He's
We're
got to
working
get
on
a Bills or a Ravens jersey. I know what he's going to do.
Yeah,
I'll buy
you
it
gotta-
for
you
him.
gotta get it.
That's what he said. He said he had to get a Bills or a Ravens jersey, but we're working on it.
Unfortunately, it's going to be dark-ish during this game. It's going to be hard to reenact some of the plays in the yard.
We
but
got to
we'll figure it
reenact
out.
them in the foreground, Maddie, instead of the background. We can work
concrete.
around this, buddy.
Listen,
We
I
got
can
plenty
make
of time to figure it out. You can tackle him into the pool. We'll see
I'll
what the
be
weather's
Lamar.
like.
Maddie will be Derrick Henry,
Oh
and then
my
we
gosh.
can.
And after that, we got the combine.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, yeah, it does roll all together. So it's going to be a busy next couple of weeks. But as always, we appreciate you guys being here. The Chiefs are headed to the AFC Championship. Again, we said it 7th year in a row. Thank you, Mr. Patty Mahomes.
These are the good old days.
There you go. Have a great rest of your guys' evening. Enjoy watching the other game. I forgot that was happening. Well, there it is. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Craig's great.
You know, the Texans have never been to an AFC title game. We've won 7 in a row now.
That's wild.
Man, that's